Dr. C.Rangarajan, Chairman of Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, joins us live. Dr. Rangarajan, good morning and always a delight to have you on ET Now. Let me first start with the hot topic, and the hot topic is that Mr. Raghuram Rajan will be the new Governor of Reserve Bank of India. Even though it is the obvious choice and this is the best choice, what do you think Mr. Raghuram Rajan will be able to do which the current governor has failed to achieve?
I welcome the appointment of Raghuram Rajan as Governor of RBI. It is an excellent choice. He comes with outstanding academic credentials. He has hands-on experience, having been Chief Economist of the IMF earlier, and currently as the Chief Economic Advisor of the Government of India. I'm quite sure that under his dynamic leadership, the Reserve Bank of India would play its role as an outstanding central bank. As we move ahead, I think there are many tasks cut out for Mr. Rajan. The immediate problem, of course, is to contain the volatility in the foreign exchange market. We need to restore some stability to the value of the rupee. But going beyond will be the usual concerns of the central bank, namely to maintain price stability and to stimulate economic growth and to bring about changes in the financial system so as to facilitate economic growth and more particularly industrial and agricultural growth.
But how will he achieve that, sir? He has to rein in inflation, stabilize the rupee and accelerate growth. Now, managing all these three things together is virtually impossible.
No, I think this is not an impossible trinity. It is a possible trinity, may not be in the short period, but over the medium term. Sometimes we need to act because one of the three problems which you mentioned becomes more urgent, as in the current situation, when the volatility of the rupee has assumed serious concern, and therefore we need to address that issue immediately. But over the medium term, I do not see any conflict between maintaining price stability and financial stability and achieving a higher rate of growth. So, in fact, before the volatility in the rupee occurred, we were moving towards a situation in which the monetary policy could be eased because inflation, at least at the wholesale level, was coming down, and the economy needed some stimulation for growth. Therefore, one was thinking in terms of moving towards a more eased, the easing of the monetary policy. But the sudden developments of the external sector made the Reserve Bank of India pause and not take action in that particular direction. Therefore, as the rupee stabilizes, I think there will be greater maneuverability for the Reserve Bank of India to act in the direction of stimulating economic growth.
Dr. Rangarajan, I mean, RBI's recent measures clearly have failed to curb the rupee volatility. Yesterday we saw again a fresh time low on the currency. What could the RBI do? Because whatever measures they seem to be taking are not really working in the near term.
I do not know whether you can describe these events as not having any effect. Actually, at one time it looked like that it will fall very sharply, but the actions of the Reserve Bank held it back. Similarly, what the Reserve Bank of India is trying to do is that it cannot interfere with the fundamental factors, but it can prevent actions which in a sense exaggerate the problem, to the extent to which speculative activities feed and contribute to the depreciation of the rupee. The Reserve Bank of India can act and prevent those speculative activities. But we have to recognize the fact that we have a high current account deficit. But the problem really that we face in the current fiscal is that the capital flows have slowed down. Last year also we had a high current account deficit, but it did not create any serious problem except on occasions because the capital flows were adequate We had almost capital inflow of $83 billion last year. But what has happened this year, not because of domestic factors, but because of the external factors, the capital flows have slowed. And it is my belief that once the capital flows are restored, the rupee will also get back, will get somewhat strengthened.
So, Dr. Rangarajan, do you still believe that a growth rate of near 6% is possible?
Well, at this particular moment, I would say that the growth rate of the economy can be between 5.5 and 6%, but perhaps closer to 5.5%.
Right. Let me take the clock back, sir, and let me take the clock back about 25 years when a similar crisis had occurred in late 90s. When the similar crisis had occurred in late 90s, Reserve Bank of India had promptly increased the repo rates by about 2 percentage points, by about 200 bips. Do you think a similar action needs to be warranted?
Well, you see that we can recall two instances. One was in 1995 and the later was in 1997-98. In those days, you must remember that the major instrument of credit control was essentially the cash reserve ratio. Because in 1995 particularly, you will see that that was the time at which the interest rates were being freed. Therefore, the so-called policy rates, the repo rates and other things were not actually that important at that time because they were yet to play the role that they are playing today. Therefore, we acted on the cash reserve ratio, tightened liquidity. So what the Reserve Bank of India has done now also is to tighten the liquidity. Sometimes people think that there is no announcement on the policy rate. The announcement regarding the policy rate is not the only signal. I believe, and I think they have sent out the signal by raising the bank rate and also by raising the marginal lending facility rate by 200 basis points. The moment they tighten the liquidity, either because of reducing the access to the Reserve Bank or because of the open market operations, it will have an upward pressure on interest rate. Ultimately, the central banks are king canutes. They simply cannot say let the rate rise. They have to act either through the open market operations or through other instruments to bring about that change.
Dr. Rangarajan, let me also draw your attention to a comment which we got from Governor last week in his credit policy briefing, and where he indicated that Reserve Bank of India is not really bothered about the rupee level. We only want to curb the rupee volatility. So what exactly do you think he's trying to signal across? And if he's not bothered about the rupee level, why intervene at all through policy action?
No. I think this is the stated objective of the Reserve Bank. This has been the objective all along, namely that we are not anchored or tied to a particular rate, but we do not, at the same time, allow for extreme volatility in the foreign exchange market, because the market participants need to adjust to changes in the exchange rate. Therefore, what is really required is the degree of volatility in the market is moderated. That is what he meant, namely that sudden drops or sudden deterioration is not desirable. It is also an aspect of volatility. So controlling volatility essentially means regulating the pace at which the rupee behaves also. And that is why he said that we are not tied to a particular rate, but we certainly are oriented towards reducing the volatility in the foreign exchange market.
So to your mind, what is the definition of a stable rupee? If level is not the right way to define a stable rupee, how should one define a stable rupee?
No. The stability is really in terms of the manner in which the rupee behaves. Now, if there is a sudden deterioration on a particular day, or if it swings by a large margin on a day-to-day basis, these are what is meant by volatility. And that is what requires to be curtailed.
Dr. Rangarajan, we've previously seen as to how Mr. Subbarao's focus was controlling inflation. Now that inflation somewhat seems to have stabilized, do you think for Raghuram Rajan it will be about bringing back growth, and that is where his focus would be?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, even Subbarao was almost at the point of changing the direction. He almost had indicated. But the volatility of the rupee and the pressure on the rupee made a change. That is why I believe that if there is some stability in the foreign exchange market, and if the wholesale price inflation continues to remain around the current level, it will give space for the monetary authorities to move in the direction of stimulating economic growth.
You've been on the high chair before, sir. Would you have approached the current crisis differently?
Approach what?
The current crisis. You've been on the high chair, sir, once, and you've seen similar crises in the past.
I think I think we also went through a similar crisis in 1995 and close to 1997. I think the actions of the Reserve Bank were justified. I think that while monetary policy has multiple objectives, among the set of objectives, the most dominant objective for monetary policy is price stability, and that is why the Reserve Bank of India acted in the way in which it did in order to contain the increase in prices. Inflation control is an important objective of monetary policy. And as far as the situation of the pressure on the rupee is concerned, once again, the manner in which the Reserve Bank of India has acted is very similar to what was done both in late 1997, early 1998, and as well as in 1995, namely to restrict the liquidity in the system, to prevent speculative activities having a bearing on the way the rupee behaves.
Dr. Rangarajan, really appreciate you taking the time out and speaking with us so candidly today on ET Now. Good to have you on the show as always.